So, hey guys, I've got Kenny Cox on here. This guy is a huge mentor, friend of mine. The guy has murdered the door-to-door space. I worked with him at Vivint. You can see a bunch of the Vivint trophies in the background. He and I took down a lot of competitions and just crushed it in the door-to-door space. Wanted to get Kenny on here to pick his brain about door-to-door. So, Kenny, tell me where you're at right now. Are you still doing door-to-door?
Yeah, I am. So first off, Duane, thanks for having me. I love this. I love getting on it and kind of helping people understand like the opportunity that still exists inside of door to door. But Duane's not wrong. I remember the first day that you and I knocked together. I think Duane watched me knock a few doors selling smart homes, and then he disappeared. Called me like an hour later. He's like, "Hey, I'm in a house. I can't figure out how to write this thing up." I go down, and you were in a trailer. You remember that? You were in like this double wide trailer selling the security account. You're like, "Hey, show me how to do the paperwork." So Duane was an absolute natural, really from day one in door to door. So anyhow, some of my fondest memories of knocking doors have been with you. But yeah, so I work at Vivint Smart Home. I've been here for 7 years. I'm a sales executive for the company right now. I still lead and direct teams. I even still get out and get my hands and feet dirty, knocking doors from time to time. But with that, along with selling vacuum cleaners, along with knocking doors for my church, I'm about 23 years deep into sitting in people, like knocking on people's doors, sitting in living rooms and selling a product or a service. So
Kenny, how many guys do you have underneath you right now?
So we'll onboard around 550 to 600 guys a year. And then of the ones that make it, because door-to-door sales is just a really high turnover business, I'll usually have around 350 active reps at any given time. And that's about what we have right now.
What kind of volume are you guys selling from those guys?
Yeah, so Duane and I were talking about this before the call. So for about 14 years, all my guys just knocked and sold security systems or smart home systems. And about 3 years ago, I kind of saw this movement coming into the world of solar. And really solar for us, actually, it complements our smart home offering really well. And so I decided to, and it was a big risk because we were selling about 19,000 smart homes a year at that point. And we started losing volume and guys that were leaving to go sell solar, right? They're still knocking doors, still selling a product. They just wanted to sell solar. And so I just made a big bet and I started teaching my guys how to sell solar. I did it all under the Vivint umbrella. And now we'll probably install around 4,000 solar accounts this year, which is a lot of solar. And we'll still install somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 smart homes. So we're selling 2 products, and I have like some opinions on that. It's not my favorite thing to kind of be pushing 2 products, but it's working for us right now, and we'll keep doing it.
Yeah, that's money. So Kenny has made millions of dollars. He's trained people to make millions of dollars. Kenny, what's some advice you'd give someone that's just getting ready to start into door-to-door?
So listen, it's going to go one of 3 ways, right? It's going to be harder than you imagine. It'll be about what you imagine, or it'll be easier than you imagine. And so kind of like life, if you're just ready for all 3 of those outcomes, then you're prepared for this, right? Especially the first one. It's going to be harder than you think. The thing I love so much about door to door is that we always have an addressable market. Always. A good example of this. Now I'm in the smart home space, right, where we sell alarm systems. And if you guys go to Best Buy, you're going to see all these cool doorbell cameras and indoor cameras and outdoor cameras. Just a couple statistics to kind of prove my point is when people buy a product like that off the shelves of Best Buy, they return those 40% of the time. And a lot of products that might even be better than Vivint products have died. Like the companies have gone bankrupt and died on the shelves of Best Buy, Home Depot, and Lowe's. And it's like, well, why is that, right? Because there's a lot of products that are they're not purchased, they are sold. And they're sold by an expert sitting in their living room, asking questions and then solving problems for the customer. And smart home is certainly that way, and so is solar. Now, our best years in knocking doors were during recessions. And in 2008, right? And Duane, you and I were working together around that time.
Yep.
2008, during the housing crisis, as a company, we had our biggest sales year ever, right? And then just recently during COVID, right? The first year that COVID hit, or were we 2020? Was it 2020? I don't even remember now. But the year that hit, we had next to 2008, we had our biggest sales year ever during a recession. And the reason why is because everybody was home. Everybody was home. We could knock a door. We could catch a captive audience, and ask really good find out questions, present solutions, and sell to them. Because when people are going to the store, they don't even know what they need, right? They don't really know what they're looking for. They don't know what the process is. They don't know what the installation what it looks like for them to do it on their own. Where if you're sitting in the living room and you can ask good questions and you present solutions, you can just literally just sign them up with it, and they don't cancel. Like for us, when we sell either solar or smart home, our pull-through percentage is gigantic, right? Because we're sitting in their living room and asking them real world questions, and they were giving us real world answers, and we designed a custom solution for them in their house. And so the point that I'm making is, if you have the ability to knock a door, I don't care if you're selling steam cleaners, if you're selling vacuums, if you're selling hearing aids, if you're selling real estate, if you're selling garbage can cleaning, it does not matter what you're selling. If you can knock a door, you can sell any product and any service and be really, really powerful with it. I had some of my guys, just to point with that, we actually tried putting active sales reps in Best Buy stores a few years ago to sell our products sitting in a Best Buy store. And they were losing their freaking minds. My guys they hated sitting in a store, waiting for a customer to walk in the door that wasn't looking for their product, looking for something completely different. And they're trying to sell them a product or service. They hated it, right? Because they were very limited to how many opportunities they got a day. They would way rather have left the store and went and knocked doors, because they can control how many presentations they're giving a day. So for a lot of you that are maybe thinking about, hey, maybe this door-to-door thing will work, you're crazy if you don't. I mean, Duane, I remember when you went from Vivint to knocking to selling real estate, how you got your start, correct me if I'm wrong, but how you got your start was you went here in Provo near the BYU campus and started knocking doors. I bought a house from Duane that he had somehow knocked on the door, found the owner, and they were open to selling their house, and he sold me the house. It was a duplex with tenants downstairs and tenants upstairs. And so it's just like, if you can kind of earn this skill set of knocking doors, you'll be the most powerful salesperson that exists. There's lots of crappy salespeople, like car salesmen. I think they're the worst salespeople ever, because they sit in this air-conditioned office and hope that you're going to walk in the store, and then they're not even good at asking questions about what I'm there for, right? It's like, no, but if I could take that same guy and put him on the doors and teach him how to knock and how to create value out of thin air for a customer, he will be unstoppable on the lot. Because if nobody's on the lot, guess what he's going to do? He's going to go out. He's going to go start knocking doors, asking people if they thought about trading in their cars, and he will be the top sales guy in the state of Utah. But they have to leave their air-conditioned office to do it, right? So there's kind of, in sales, and I hope this is okay, I'm just going, but you can tell I'm passionate about this. Everybody has two lists, right? We have a list in our mind of things that we will do, and a list of things in our mind that we won't do, right? And what I would propose to you as salespeople, as long as the list in your mind of things you will do is always bigger than the list of things you won't do, you will be successful, right? And a lot of that is, will you go out and knock doors, right? Will you do it in the rain? Will you do it in the cold? Will you knock a set of hours? Will you at least knock to a set number of contacts? Not, hey, I'm going to go knock for an hour. No, I'm going to go and knock until I create 2 prospects, right? And if I don't, then I'm knocking until 9 p.m., right? And so you have to have that's a really long list of things you're willing to give up to go and be successful. Because if this is a casual thing, then the doors will chew you up and spit you out. You have to be fully committed that you're going to make the doors work. Sorry, that was a really long answer. I don't remember what the original question was, but
No,
that was a really long answer.
What advice would you give a new person starting to knock doors? And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's funny because Kenny brings this up. That first month in real estate, I sold 10 homes. The average real estate agent sells 3 homes a year. And it was funny because Kenny, I knocked that door, I found the house for you, you bought it. The people that sold the house to you actually bought another one of the houses I knocked on. So I had 4 transactions happening just from me knocking doors. And, you know, you can do that all day long because people are just waiting for a good salesman. They're waiting for someone to come
100%.
by and do exactly what you said. Help them understand their problems through questions and help them resolve the problems so they can move forward with what they already want to do. Because people love to buy. They just hate to be sold. Hate to be sold. So Kenny, emotions are crazy when you're knocking doors. You know, those days you've been in Dallas, Texas, it's 120 degrees outside and you're sweating to death. You haven't gotten your sale by 3 o'clock. You've got to have 4 on the day in order to hit your average. You know, how do you tell people to control their emotions? Because I think that's probably one of the biggest things you deal with in coaching all the agents you coach. How do people control their emotions?
Yeah. So listen, this is one of those where, just like any callus, right? My dad worked construction, very blue collar. Duane, you come from a super blue collar background. But look, my dad, his hands were always so calloused and so rough. And it's not like it happened in a day. It happened over weeks, months, and years, right? And you have to put the time into this to earn the emotional calluses of knocking doors, right? And so really the simplest way I can kind of define this for you is you only control 2 things on the doors. And it's your attitude and it's your effort, right? And then you just have to freaking relax. Like Lady Luck will smile on you if you can keep those 2 things in check. So one of the things that I always loved about Duane, and I think it's the mark of any good sales guy, I know that I have this mark, is if I'm out knocking doors and I'm selling, you know, an alarm system, and I've got a car full of people with me, if I sell 0 or if I sell 5 in a day, my attitude when I get in the car at the end of the night is the exact same. It's the exact same, because if I can just control my attitude, my effort, some days are just going to be better than others. And that's it. Like, that's just how it goes. And good salespeople understand the law of the harvest, right? Is that we will reap what we sow. And we're so impatient, right? Like Amazon Prime has us so impatient. We order a doodad on Amazon and it shows up the same freaking day. It like shows up the same day. And so we just think that life works like this. Like life does not work like that, right? Even though I sow today doesn't mean I'm going to reap today also. It doesn't always mean that. It means that I will reap at some point, right? Farmers have to sow in the spring and then reap in the fall as long as frost and bugs and stuff doesn't kill their crop, right? And so they're like 6 months to get this thing dialed, and we get so impatient because we're like, oh, I went out today and I didn't get anything. It's like, no, if you go out for a full week and give it 100% of what you got, I promise you that those seeds that you are sowing, you'll eventually reap if you stick with it. So in my entire career of going out and like slinging alarm systems, I can count on one hand how many times I actually pulled a 0 in a day. But what was interesting is the days that I pulled a 0, I would always sell contacts the following day or even a week later, people that I met the day that I zeroed, right? So just because you're out knocking the door and you're sowing seeds, be patient with the reaping. I promise you it will happen. Now, again, if you sow a seed, you've got to water it. You've got to, make sure sun gets on it. You've got to weed around it. You've got to cultivate it. And some of your leads are going to be that way. And then you will be able to reap it. So when you create a lead, if you ignore it, then the crop's going to die on you. But just keep that in mind. Like in sales, we honor the law of the harvest. It's a natural order of things, and it is no different, especially if we're out knocking doors.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I mean, I look back to my real estate when I first started. I sold 89 homes my first year. But the reason I sold 89 homes that first year is because I was scared to death that I wasn't going to replace the income that I'd made at Vivint. And so I'm looking at, hey, I was making 500 plus a year. and I've got to go replace that. And so I didn't go out, as Kenny talked about effort and attitude. I didn't go out saying, hey, I'm going to work 3 hours. I was putting in 14-hour days because I wasn't going to go backwards in income. And as Kenny talks about, effort over time, it took 2 years of doing that before I was able to walk away from prospecting, period, and sell over 30 million a year in real estate that is repeat and referral business. So it's not just going to fall into your lap. And I don't think it does with anything we do at a big scale. Kenny didn't go from training a couple guys to being one of the executives of the company, training hundreds of guys. And overnight, it took him going out and crushing it to gain the clout of me even wanting to join his team. Kenny was selling crazy numbers prior to even me selling and joining his team. And that's what attracted me to Kenny, was the fact that he was a crazy good salesman. And I wanted to learn from a guy like that. And it all relates back to everything.
Well, look, it's so true, right? They say that the man on top of the mountain didn't just fall there, right? You guys are seeing Duane and I, and we're at the top of our field right now. What you're not seeing is how much time and energy it's taken to get here, right? I've done the math a couple of times with what I do, and this is where, again, my list was really long of things I was willing to do. I've sacrificed about 6 years away from my wife and kids over the years, between summers and blitz trips and company events and all of these things, family reunions, anniversaries, birthdays. Like, I had this long list of things that I was willing to give up to get here, to be the man on top of the mountain. You guys don't see that, right? You think that maybe Duane or I have somehow a silver spoon. No, we drove ourselves to the edge where we almost lost our minds a few times, right? The great ones have to go there. You have to push yourself so far that you about lose your mind to know how far you can go. And now that we're here, we attend all the company events, right? Or sorry, all the family events, right? I'm at all the family reunions, I'm at all birthdays, I'm at all those things. But for years, I gave those up to get here. Now, I'm not saying that you have to walk the same path that I have. That's what it took for me in my field to be the very, very best. So you guys got to figure out and get with your spouse and just say, hey, I'm going to be putting a ton of time and energy in. What are the must-haves that you've got to have from me? And then what things are we willing to give up as a family for me to go be a top 1% performer, right? Like that, you've got to kind of get there, because that's what it's going to take. Because sales will take everything that you'll give it. So you have to decide, hey, how much am I willing to give it to go be a top 1%er? Because it's going to take everything.
Kenny, I love it. I mean, Kenny's the one guy I have to give super appreciation to. He taught me how to do a vision board. And I've done a vision board every year of my life since meeting Kenny. And it goes back to the same thing. What are you willing to do to hit those things, every one of them on your vision board, and be able to scale at that level? So I appreciate that, Kenny. Perfect. It's been a huge, huge success for me. I've loved it. Yeah, hey, one last thing. I mean, give me 3 takeaways that you'd say to any door-to-door guy that's going to go out and do real estate today. What are 3 things that you would say they must do in order to find success in this today in this market?
Okay. So 3 things. Real estate specifically. So number one, I'll just kind of speak some sales in general, right? Because I've sold several products. Like a sale is an emotional transaction, and this is something you guys already know, right? Is that people buy emotionally and then they justify with logic. So you have to be excellent at finding out what a customer wants and being able to deliver on exactly that, right? On not just, hey, what's your price range, right? I've dealt with other real estate agents before, and their first question is, what is your price range? I'm like, you don't even know what I want yet. Like, because price range is not an emotional attachment for me. It's like, hey, how many kids do you have? What are your kids' ages, right? Okay, so in a home, what are your must-haves? What are start there, right? So it's, and I know for a lot of you, this is I'm probably saying, hey, get back to the basics, right? Get back to the basics. And the basics are what make us great. I think when salespeople start to trip up and they start to not perform the way that they maybe once have, it's because they get too smart. And we get too smart by cutting corners, by asking dumb questions when we lead out by like, well, what's your budget? No. There's so many things that come before you ask me that. So number one would be that, right? To make sure that you're selling with emotion, and you do that by asking excellent questions in the beginning, right? Number two is that you have to know what your competitive advantage is, right? That there are, I don't even know, Duane, you probably know this, but how many real estate agents in the state of Utah, for example, right now?
There's over 30,000.
30,000, 30 freaking thousand. So why would I buy a house from Duane versus a house from my cousin Jimmy that also has his real estate license? I've got to be able to shake you awake at night, and you can tell me why I should do business with you, right? And you have to believe it, right? So you got to know what your competitive advantage is. Because if it's just, hey, well, I'm just going to charge you less of a commission, then it's a race to the bottom, right? One of the things that I've actually really loved about a couple agents that I've worked with in the past, Duane being one of them, is that they won't budge on price, because they know that they're worth it. They know that if they're representing you, they're going to earn every single penny that they make, right? So you guys, you have to know. And look, and if you are gonna like break on price, you have to have a really good story to tell as to why, right? Otherwise, yeah, you're going to be charging 0.5% to sell homes, and you may as well be working at freaking Burger King, right? If you're going to be doing that. And I guess if I had to say, number three is, you are the average of your 5 closest friends. If you have losers in your life like I did when I started in sales, those relationships are not helping you. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't be friends. It just means that you're not going to spend as much time with them. And so if you're listening to this, chances are you're already investing in yourself, and you're already changing that circle of 5 people that you associate with. And now all of a sudden, Duane is part of your network. And so automatically, you should elevate your level of play. But you should be seeking out people like Duane and just other top performers in your space, the top performer in your office, and you should be offering to take those people to lunch, have them over to your house for dinner. Like, make the time and effort to build these relationships that are going to be really fruitful for you and put you in a spot where you could go be a top performer. Because again, like, eagles don't hang out with chickens, right? If you want to be with an eagle, you got to go soar with the other eagles. Stop hanging out with those guys. So those would probably be my 3.
Kenny Cox, thank you so much for your time. This guy has made millions and millions of dollars selling real estate. Top people to do the same. The information you've given is priceless. If you guys will take and apply this and get to the point where you're using it and you think the way he's thinking, that is the first steps to making a ton in real estate. So thanks, Kenny. Appreciate you being on today.
Okay. Thanks, Duane. Okay. We'll see you guys. Good luck.